Doomsday Mom, Lori Daybell, who will be going to trial on March 31st for the unaliving of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, gave an interview to Keith Morrison of Dateline recently. The interview aired last Friday night. In my video today, I want to share some of the revelations, no pun intended, from that shit show of an interview. It was 90 minutes long, and Keith Morrison tried as hard as he could to get Lori to give straight answers, honest answers, but it was very clear that she was running the show and she wasn't about to tell the truth, and she danced around so many of the questions. Number 1, Lori claimed that her wedding dress and the malachite rings that she bought off of Amazon, using Charles Vallow's credit card, by the way, were intended for Alex Cox and Zulema Pastinez. Remember, she bought those rings weeks before Tammy Daybell was unalived. Well, now Lori claims that the rings were originally intended for Alex and Zulema. That's what I think she does all day. She sits in her jail cell and she comes up with the lies that she's going to try to spin in court. Number 2, Rexburg, Idaho Police Lieutenant Ball, when he went to Lori Vallow's house in Idaho to try and do a welfare check on JJ and Tylee, came in contact with Alex Cox and Chad Daybell. And when he asked Alex where the kids were, Alex said that they were likely with their grandparents in Louisiana. The officer replied something akin to, "Well, I doubt that, because the grandparents are the ones who asked for the welfare check." And apparently, Alex Cox was very nervous and pretty much speechless after the lieutenant said that. Number 3, Lori's tactic throughout her interview with Keith Morrison was to say things like, "Did you hear me say that, Keith? Did you see me do that, Keith? Well, then how do you know?" And I have a feeling that this is what she's going to do during the trial for Charles Vallow's death. You watch, she's going to try and say, "None of you actually saw that happen." Number 4, Lori had the audacity to claim that Tylee is the person who unalived JJ accidentally. And because she was so upset about it, she also unalived herself. I mean, we probably should not be surprised by Lori sinking this low. After all, it does appear that she signed off on the deaths of her 2 children, Tylee and JJ, so why should we not expect her to lie and try to blame the crimes on Tylee? This very much upset Lori's son Colby, Tylee's big brother, for the obvious reasons. Next, we learned that when Zulema Pastinez, the woman who married Alex Cox, when she was at the hospital after 51-year-old Alex Cox suddenly dropped dead in her bathroom and died because of blood clots in his lungs, allegedly, apparently she was told at some point while at the hospital that she could no longer touch Alex because he was now considered a, quote, crime scene. And I have to say, I find his death very suspicious. He is known to be the executioner, right? He's the guy who carried out the things that Lori wanted done. He was at the Daybell home when Tammy Daybell died. He was also the guy last seen with JJ, and his geolocation also put him at Lori's apartment on the day that Tylee was last seen. So you would think that maybe Chad and Lori, maybe they concocted something to get rid of Alex in the hopes that the police would let Alex be the scapegoat for all of the crimes. Here's another doozy that I had not heard. Chad Daybell allegedly told his children before he was arrested at his property that he was probably going to go to jail that day. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall that morning when he said that to his kids. I'm wondering what he said to them in terms of why he was going to be arrested. Next, it came out, and I don't know that I've ever heard this before. I may have, but I don't remember. They said that JJ's body showed signs of a struggle, and that is absolutely so horrifying. Remember, JJ was on the autism spectrum, and when his body was found, he had a plastic bag over his head. I mean, does it get any worse than that? Doing something like that to your child, the child that you adopted, a child who was on the spectrum, who all he wanted was love? How could these monsters do that to this little boy? And for that reason, I feel like Lori does not deserve the privilege of serving as her own lawyer during her trial for Charles' death. I mean, it's like giving her a platform to go up there and spew her lies and spin her tales, and you know she's going to love every second of it. She's going to put on her prison makeup and strut out there with her curls and try to charm everybody on the jury. And according to Keith Morrison, he said she's very charismatic in person, even though you know pretty much everything she's telling you is a lie. When Keith Morrison kept asking her, "Were you there when JJ and Tylee died?" Lori kept saying, "Was I where? What do you mean? Was I where? What are you talking about? Was I where?" And she kept dancing around that. Finally, she said that she wasn't there. Do you believe her? I don't. And when asked what it's like being able to be her own lawyer, Lori told Keith it's great. Oh yeah, because that's going to give her a lot of power. It's going to allow her to have a captive audience. You know how she had her own little room in her house where she would dance and there were mirrors all around her? This is going to be her chance to get up there and speak and say whatever the heck she wants. I hope the judge is going to rein her in, because otherwise it's just going to be a disaster. I can't even imagine. I'm planning to go down there for this trial, and I'm worried that it's just going to be impossible, because how are they going to get anywhere with her telling all these lies, spinning things? I just can't even imagine what it's going to be like. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Bed Crime Stories.